Life is so messy.
Hard things are gonna be hard. Even running can be addictive.
People are just sucked into your story because you're so real.
We are back with season 2. It's Lauren Deletsky.
And I'm Jackie G.
And this is the Clack podcast. Happy Sunday, Jack. We're back.
We are back, girlfriend.
Can you believe that we're recording on a weekend for once in our lives?
Honestly, I kind of like it.
I do too. It's just like less stress.
Yeah, less stress, and it's just like I woke up, did my workout, I ate breakfast, I chilled, I watched some WNBA games, and then here we are.
That sounds nice. I threw a baby shower this morning, so
yeah, you're insane.
I'm unwell, but no, it was so fun. I was so happy to celebrate my sister who was pregnant with her second. Shout out to Lib. I love you. You are so
Lib.
beautiful. You're the best mother. You set the bar for me in so many ways. And
I met her at the Clack party, and she was awesome.
I know. She was like so excited to meet you. I was like, I can't believe you haven't met Jackie yet. Like, what's happening here?
Weird.
But I feel like our families are like merging.
They are. They're fusing together.
They're fusing.
Yeah.
We have such an amazing guest coming on the show today, and I want to jump right in and just give a quick overview on her. This is someone that I happen to stumble upon on social media because I'm a runner. Mm-hmm. I've always loved running. It's part of my DNA. There's a lot of like running social media out there, you know, whether you're a coach or a runner yourself or an athlete. But this woman, her name's Amy Haas. She's just the most incredible woman. But more importantly, she's just so authentic. And that word can mean so many different things out on social media. But like she makes people feel so seen and heard as a runner. That's the second I went to her social media, I was like, this girl is it. Like this girl can talk about running in such a real, authentic way and like get in your head of what it's like to be a runner. And it's so invaluable because running is one of those things that means so much to so many people. Yeah. So like I'm kind of fangirling about this interview.
No, same. And for me, for someone who's not like obsessed with running, but like loves running, I think what I've heard about Amy is just like the adversity that she's been through and all the stories that, you know, we've talked about that she's gone through. And I personally am just really excited to dive into that and hear all the things that she's had to overcome and to be where she's at right now and just to do everything that's so positive in the community.
Totally. And I think running and sports can be such a place of healing. And so I think with that, we should jump on in.
I think we should too.
Let's go. Let's meet Amy.
Zoom, 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 zoom.
We have such a special guest with us here today. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. Thanks, Jack. Amy Haas. Amy is actually our first guest to join us from a different state in person. So, Amy, welcome to Clack. We're so happy to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited. I love Oregon so far.
Yay!
And for anybody that isn't familiar with Amy, her Instagram handle is Race Across the States. She's a strength and running coach. And when I came across her profile for the first time, one thing that really struck me was how much her community loves her. You can tell how authentic she is. She has run a half marathon, or ultra in every single state in the country.
Yep.
That's something to celebrate.
It's incredible.
It's exciting. It feels so crazy that it's over. Like, it just feels like it went by so fast, even though it was a 10-year journey.
Yeah, so are you going to do it again, though? That's my bigger question.
I mean, the travel aspect will always be part of my running. It's just part of my joy for it, so we'll see where it takes me.
Amy, we also want to congratulate you for completing all 50 states, I think just in October. Where were you in October?
So my last one was Rhode Island, and I wanted to do like Hawaii or Alaska last, but the more I thought about it, I wanted my entire family and friends to be there, and asking them to go all the way there just didn't make sense. So when it came down to it, I only had a few states left, so Rhode Island was like the most central one. And I was like, all right, we're all going to Rhode Island last.
But honestly, to be like, I don't have that many states left. That's that's insane.
So Amy, can you give us a little background on how you found running, and when you were younger, what sports did you play or what were you into?
Athletics has always been like my comfort zone. Like I've always thrived in athletics. I've always been a very like sports-oriented person. And I started out in races when I was only like 6 or 7 years old. I was a very energetic child and a very overwhelming child. My mom actually brought me to the doctor crying and said, I don't know what to do with her. She doesn't stop. She doesn't have an off button. Like nothing is sustaining her attention.
So you were just high energy.
Yeah, high energy. And they thought that I was ADHD and wanted to put me on medication and all of this. And my aunt actually came in and told my mom, like, yeah, you could do that, but you might dull that spark that is supposed to be there.
Oh, wow. I love that.
I know. And
Wow.
my mom talks about it all the time. And she's like, I'm so glad we did not do that at that point, because that spark is what has gotten you where you are today. So
It's that resilience.
yeah, so I played all kinds of sports. I played soccer, basketball, not very good. I did swimming, I did gymnastics, I did everything. But the running is something my mom got me into to channel that energy, basically.
Smart mom.
Yeah. And I will never forget one of her stories about one of my first races. She said I came through the finish line and I was all by myself, so they thought I'd probably not done very well because like kids were finishing and I just like was all by myself. And she was proud of me for finishing, but she's like, okay, like you didn't win or anything. And we're walking around the mall afterwards and they're doing the announcements and all the awards. And they call my name as the like age group winner. And she's like, how is that possible? And it turns out I had beat all the kids in my age group and I had caught up to the kids in the next age group.
Oh my gosh. And you had no idea?
And nobody had any idea. She was like,
wow.
how was I supposed to know? So that was one of my first running experiences. And I just kind of kept going with it. But yeah.
So you were a multi-sport athlete when you were younger. Like, tell us a little bit about figuring out like what you like love to do, I guess.
Yeah, so obviously started out with running and everything. It turned out I had asthma and my mom started getting very nervous during these races because she couldn't see me the whole time. And I started having kind of asthma attacks throughout the races. So she took me out of running and put me into soccer where she could see me on the field the whole time.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I transitioned into soccer all the way through college. I played soccer.
Oh, where'd you play in college?
At Ohio University.
Oh, nice.
So,
Okay.
yeah, that was like my main focus throughout the rest of my sports career until college when I found running again.
Wow. Well, on average, I believe soccer players run about 8 to 12 miles a game. So that was probably very good conditioning to get you into that next phase of running.
Yeah,
for
the
long
ironic
distance.
thing is that I wasn't actually very good at soccer. Like I played and I was like average, but even in high school, my coach took us into like the press box to like tell us whether we made the team or not. And I was trying out for the varsity team. It was like make or break. Like I was either going to make that or not play on the high school team anymore because you couldn't be on JV anymore. And he said, I just want you to know you made the team, but not because of your skills. Only because you set the tone at practice for conditioning.
Oh, so you had, yeah.
And I should have known at that point that like running was still my thing, but
That is super valuable to have someone like that on the team that's like the motor and the motivator, because like, yeah, those are like priceless pieces to have on a team, in my opinion.
yeah, it was funny though, because I was like, oh, okay, I'm not that good, but
Yeah, but you did something great, so
Yeah.
that's really all that matters. And it carried you through college. You had a scholarship in college as well?
not a scholarship. So I played club, and so like it wasn't like I never really wanted it to be all consuming in my life. I was going to school for teaching, and I was working full time as like a student, so I didn't really have time to like put into a varsity or like a whole sport. But yeah, that's when I found running again.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So when that moment happened for you where you're like, I think, I've always loved to run. I've run races since I was a little kid. What was that pivot point for you when you're like, no, running might be it for me? Like that might be my path.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So my cousin actually asked me to do my first half marathon. It was the Chicago half marathon.
It's a great one.
It was amazing. It was my freshman
love
year of
Chicago.
college.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I didn't really think anything of it. I still didn't know that I loved running. I actually hated it when we were training for that because I was like, this is too far.
Yeah.
Like too much.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
Too many miles.
Yeah.
Can't
Like I
imagine.
can do soccer conditioning for like a few sprints, but like not this.
Girl,
So,
I'm like a 5K. That shit's too freaking far. No, thank
5Ks
you.
are honestly harder than half
Okay,
marathons in
well,
my opinion.
that's really
especially
pushing
to
things,
like
but
sustain that momentum and then
Yeah.
you're just like burning it so hard, whereas like with half marathon running, you're kind of like you're ebbing and flowing to like keep
Exactly.
that pace. So Yeah, it's
5K
freaking
is just
hard.
all out. But yeah, so she asked me to do that half marathon. I trained for it, and going into it, we were doing it for my cousin, which is her brother, my cousin Scotty, who passed away as a child when he was just 12, when we were all kids, from cancer. And so we decided to sign up for it, race it in honor of him. My mom got me these like angel wings that I tied into my shoelaces. And like every time during a run when I just felt like, oh, this is boring, or like this isn't fun, or like this is too hard, like I would just look at them and be like, how lucky am I? Like, how lucky am I to be able to do this and to be like able to like move my body and run and see these places and live this life. And it just like really, I just really wanted to do it for him and like just.
Yeah, I know you found a bigger purpose and like you found something to do it for. And I feel like a lot of times in sports with like athletes, like there's a bigger reason why we do it, you know?
100%, 100%. And the race itself, I will say, didn't go as planned.
Yeah.
I still had that like soccer mentality of like go as hard as you can, and I burnt out so hard at the end. I walked basically the last few miles, but there is nothing like the end of a race when everybody is cheering and everybody is happy for you and nobody cares really what pace you ran or anything like that. Everybody is just so proud of each other and so like together, and it came at a time in my life when I really needed that. And so I feel like I just clung to it, and it just became this thing that I wanted to keep doing.
You know, for me, running was always that place in my life that when I felt like I couldn't control other things, it was a space of control.
Yeah.
And it was always that thing I could do just like when I left the door, you know, or if I happened to be at the gym and I could hop on a treadmill. I'm definitely more of an outdoor runner, but, you know, I struggled a lot with mental health and body image issues, body confidence issues. And I felt like running, I mean, at one point running was like the only thing I wanted to do in high school and college because it was like that one space of control. So could you talk a little bit about, you know, obviously the higher calling of running and purpose-driven running, but also like what are some of the other behavioral attributes you experience or you hear your community talk about on why running is for them?
I would say that control aspect is something that really, really pulls people in. Like that sense of like, this is something that's yours and it's something that is for you, and you get to reap the benefits of it, and you get to control what you put into it and what you get out of it. And there's just a lot of pride in that and a lot of just reward that comes from being able to like push yourself and being able to challenge yourself. And the limit is like, you know, it's an individual sport, but there's this community around it, and you can just keep kind of making more and more progress and challenging yourself in so many ways. I mean, there's different races, there's 5Ks, 10Ks, like there's just all these different ways to do it. And like you mentioned, you're more of an outdoor runner. Like there's different places to run. You can explore so many things. I mean, that's what happened with my husband. He was like so jealous that after a race I would get done and share with him like, oh, and there was this waterfall, and there was this, and he's like just holding all my things, like, so maybe I should just do this with you.
I'm obsessed with that. He's just like FOMO.
Yeah,
he's like, I have too much FOMO.
Like standing with my mom drinking coffee, like, this isn't it.
I bet there's so many stories of people that get into running and then their partners have such intense FOMO that they end up doing it too.
All of our friends have converted into runners.
Really?
Like, slowly but surely, all of them are like, signed up for a 5K or signed up for a half marathon.
That's so cool though.
It is amazing.
So my experience with running, just for everyone to know, basketball players hate running. That is like, it is not our thing. We're like very short sprints, stop and go, stop and go. It's like long distance, stay away. So for me, my experience with, I found my love for running later in my life. So I retired from basketball when I was like, I don't know, 32-ish, I think. And then I retired because I had bone on my left knee.
Okay.
And when I joined Orange Theory Fitness, which is my community and like where I run is the only place that I run, I feel like everyone in that class, like they had their own individual relationships with running.
Yeah.
They'd either been doing it for a really long time, you know, they had just been getting into it, or they've had, you know, a weird relationship with running, like stopping and going. And I've heard all these like really cool stories about just like running. And I'm like, what is this? Like, let me figure out what everyone loves about running here in like Portland, Oregon. I feel like for me, when I'm running, it's the only time in my life where my brain is completely like shut off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, even though I'm exerting so much energy and I'm like pushing myself to the limit, I'm not thinking about shit.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that is like, that never happens for me. Like, even when I go to sleep at night, I'm thinking about a million freaking things.
Yep.
So I think that's how I found my love and passion for running. I'm nowhere near the runner that you are. But for someone who hated running so much, I found such a zen in it.
Yeah.
And I'm like so grateful for where I'm at right now in my journey with running.
100%. I feel like I've had people ask that, like, what do you think about when you're running like for that long? And I'm like, I can't honestly think of anything that I was thinking of.
Yeah, it's like meditation.
It is.
really
It is.
I mean,
It's
for
that
me,
time
anyways.
for yourself and like that quiet away from the very loud world that we are living in.
Yeah.
For me, running is also a space where a lot of creativity happens. Like, I have runs where I literally just zone out, but my brain moves at such a fast pace. I can process so many things at once, and then sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I hit a wall because I don't know how to slow that down. So running is, while I don't always feel like I shut off completely when I run, it's almost like a blank space where I can just sort of innovate, create in my mind.
I will send myself text messages and like emails. I'll be like, oh yes,
So
that
you
is
guys
a
are
great
a whole
idea.
different wavelength than me.
So I came up with the name of our company while I was running on the track.
I came up with the name of my company while I was running.
Meanwhile, I'm sleeping as I'm running. I'm like not thinking about shit.
Running has a different therapy for different people. For me, it's that space where I can slow down.
Yeah.
I don't know if I turn off, but I slow down. But some of my best creative ideas, like Jacki has gotten out of breath, like, text notes from me being like, okay, I think I have the name for our business. Here's what it is. Because it's just like, it's that place for me to create.
And things just pop into your head when you are not expected to be thinking of things. I think it's like a mix of those two where like your brain is so quiet that like those things that you can't think of when there's so many things going on around you do tend to pop into your head because you're like, your mind is clear. It can actually think straight.
My most creative place where I think of the greatest things is in the shower.
And
I take my phone calls in the shower.
I know, I hear the rain in the back. I'm all, you're in the shower, right?
Yep.
Like,
That is hilarious.
It's my space.
That's her space. That's her zen space. Was there ever a moment for you where you're like, I don't know if this is my path? And, the doubts that came with that and what like kept you on the running path as a strength and conditioning coach and like achieving all these amazing things in running?
I decided to do another one in Ohio, which is where I live now. And at that point, my mom and I went together, and it was like, even though it was such a close trip, like we didn't have to drive that far.
Yeah.
It was a very, very meaningful trip because we were just going through a lot at that point in our life, and it was like a little escape. And so we go to this, we're laughing the whole time, we're having a great time. She's so proud of me. She cries at the end of every single race that I finish, like is just like crying. And she makes this comment that's like, well, you've already done 3 halves in 3 different states. Maybe we should go to Indiana. And I was just like, you are a genius. Like,
wow.
I'm going to do all of the states.
Oh
and
my
she's
God,
like,
that's
you are
awesome.
crazy. No,
Yeah.
you're not. You are a preschool teacher who makes like $40,000
Yeah.
a year. Like, you are surely not traveling the states. So I decided I was, and I quit teaching at a certain point and started my business and started doing social media. And no, never at any point did I stop and think, maybe I can't do this. Like, I just was like, full steam ahead, one step after the next. What do I got to do to make this happen? And there were challenges. I mean, COVID happened, and like all of my races got canceled that year. And I was like, what am I going to do? Am I going to like stall out at 20 and just like never pick this back up? So I decided to map out a personal solo road trip and do 4 states on my own. I made my own start lines. I made my own finish lines.
What?
I went on this like solo trip and just stayed at Airbnbs by myself, just racing 13.1 miles by myself in those 4 states.
That's incredible.
There's been challenges, but never at any point did I mean, I'm still that crazy kid, I feel like, that my mom talks about, where it was just like never really a question of if, it was just like, how am I going to do this?
Yeah. You have this spark that is what has, I think, enabled you to achieve these incredible accomplishments. And therefore, inspired a community around you who, like, when I go, like I said, when I go to your Instagram, I'm just like, one, I feel like this is a space I want to hang, you know, like this girl just like seems like a real one.
Okay.
Then you provide feedback that's like, wow, I never knew that. That's something I should really consider as I'm, you know, deciding to take up my next half, or even for people that just want to get started. Cause you know, we worked at Nike, obviously home of running. A lot of people, it's just putting the shoes on for the first time and getting out the door that can be the hardest thing.
Yeah.
100%.
You know?
I mean, like I said, when I started, I was not like an avid runner. I mean, I knew nothing about running, and I have learned all of the lessons that I preach on my social media from just doing it, from messing up and from learning from my mistakes. So
I'm so curious, like, what is the mindset that someone like you has to have going into every day of your life? Because I don't know if you take days off or if you're running like consistently every day, but like give us an insight of like the brain of someone who's like at this level of running and consistently does it all the time, because that to me is just like insanely powerful.
I think it just really became part of my routine. Like it just became so ingrained into like what I'm doing. And a lot of the time I think about the future. Like I just think about like, oh, I want to achieve that in the future. And so like today I need to do this in order to like keep moving towards that. I try to keep that in mind of like always kind of thinking about like with the 50 states, it was like just got to take that next step and just got to like plug into what you're doing today to know that it's going to pay off in the future, or it's going to keep adding up and keep having an exponential benefit.
Because I'm thinking back on my career and like what was my why, like what was my mentality as I was trying to become great and trying to be in the WNBA. And I think like for me, my purpose was my family and like wanting to do it for the people that I loved.
Yeah.
And like setting that bar so high to make them proud.
Yeah.
Right. And then like, and there was also that like competitive streak where I'm like, I want to be the best and I want to outwork everyone. So I'm going to work harder than everyone today, tomorrow, and the next day.
Yeah. And I think your why really evolves a lot over time. Like when I first started, like I mentioned, we were going through like a lot in my life, and my sister was struggling with addiction. And a lot of my why came down to like, if she's going through like these very tough challenges, and like it's really hard to watch, and it's really, I know that she's battling every single day to like get through this, and I just like felt this inner like pull to also like challenge myself and to like become better and to be able to show up for myself and show up for her and show up for my family. And so I feel like that was part of my why along the way, and it's kind of evolved a lot since. For a while it was that very competitive nature of wanting to get to that next benchmark, that next milestone, and now it has changed a lot because I'm running more with my husband, and my why has evolved more to like exploring with him and to spending time with him and helping him achieve things. So it's really evolved a lot.
You mentioned addiction and that being something in your life with your sister. Could you speak more about that and just like the impact that that had on your career?
When I first started the States, me and my mom were traveling together, and it was this space away from everything that was going on. I think it's important to note that like I come from a family of addiction. Like it's not just my sister. We actually went to a retreat that was a recovery retreat for her, and you have to make this map, this family tree, and you have to mark as far back as you can anybody in your family with a mental health like challenge or an addiction. And the amount of colors on that tree was just mind-boggling, and it was supposed to help you really forgive and understand that like it's not their choice. Like there is this is in your family, it's in your blood. So my grandparents, my aunts, my dad, my sister, this has just been in our family. So that was something that at the very beginning of my journey, my mom and I kind of traveled and would go and spend this time together because there was so much going on at home, and this was like one bright spot and one like positive thing that we had, that we could kind of like escape everything that was going on and like the heaviness of life.
I think, Amy, when we first met, you had shared this story with me about addiction and how the way you talked about it, and then the way you talked about your sister being such a person who was so important in your life. My sister, and Jackie, I know your sister, there are people, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
and it's
She's
like
my best friend.
Yeah, and your best friend, and I can't imagine what it would be like to have my best friend, my sister, going through that experience. But I wanted to ask one more question, just if you don't mind answering, around where you and your sister are at today. And
Yeah.
you guys have achieved so much. I mean, you've overcome great things as a family member has someone who's gone through addiction, and then with your sister who lived through it and is on the other side. How are you guys handling that today together? And like, what does your relationship look like? And what do you see as like the next step for you two?
Our relationship now is great. I mean, we talk all the time. We see each other all the time. She lives in Columbus. My other siblings still live in Wisconsin. So she's the only sibling that I have that lives close to me within driving distance. We're like 20 minutes apart. My niece is obsessed with my husband, like just absolutely obsessed, and has been since we met. So that's always been awesome. But the healing journey was very long for myself. I think partially because I had to watch my mom go through such a tough time. She was pronounced dead a few times, and like watching my mom just like get torn to shreds so many times for me was really, really, really hard. And so there was almost like this like motherly mode over my mom as well, to like really protect her from what was happening. And so for me, it took a lot longer than my entire family to forgive her. It actually took a long time. I remember sitting at the family therapy session with my entire family, and everybody else has forgiven Kristen. They're like all moving past it, and I am just in the corner, just like
Livid.
a solid brick.
Yeah.
Like I am just a brick house that cannot be broken down. And it took a long time. We ended up writing to each other, and we wrote an entire book, and we actually had it like edited, and we have the artwork done for it and everything.
Wow.
But the book is the entire story of those 5 years from each of our perspectives, and we would give each other each chapter so that we knew like this is what was happening from my eyes, and then I could listen to her and read and not react, and hear like this is what was happening actually in her life, and like what she was thinking, and like the challenges that she was overcoming mentally, or like everything. So like that was, I think, really, really impactful, because we both had to grapple with the hard truths of what each other were feeling. And after that, I think we fully forgave each other and fully kind of accepted everything.
Do you feel like there was a lot that you read from those chapters that justified her actions, or like that you learned from?
I would say a lot of it made a lot more sense as I read, or like how she felt stuck, or the emotions that she was feeling when certain things happened. I do think it just made a lot more sense for me. It was like, I can't really be angry at somebody who was feeling those things, or who was going through those hard moments. So it did give me a lot more perspective.
Wow, what a beautiful thing. I just don't even have the words to describe it, because I mean, writing in itself is so therapeutic, and for you two to be giving that to the world as a gift to so many other people is a really special thing, because we don't talk about it as enough as a society, especially women. And life is so messy. Like all I could think about when you were talking is life is so messy.
It really is.
And we have to be able to talk about the messy shit to be able to move on and find greatness and find moments of peace. And people just don't talk about the mess enough. And that's what I hate about social media, to be frank. And that's why I love your social media so much, because it's like celebrating A to Z, like this is what life is.
Yeah, it's impossible not to accept those hard things that are in life. It's impossible.
I think every great story comes from like just a shitstorm of adversity.
100%.
You know, like you can go down the list of all the stories that like end up being incredible, but that journey along the way
was very hard.
Yeah, and your journey with your sister is really like one of a kind, and the fact that you guys are writing a book and you were able to share chapters and parts of your own experiences and bring that together, and then like having, I guess, some compassion for each other along that journey is really incredible. And just like you guys did that.
Do you guys have plans to put the book out into the world soon?
We do. We have to, there's a lot of legal things that come with
Yeah,
writing
sure.
a memoir type thing, because there's so many other people involved in these stories, especially when it comes to addiction and like the friend groups she was in and the people she was around. It's just, you either have to kind of publish anonymously, or you have to like get consent from everybody involved, which is not going to happen.
I think a lot of people in this world struggle with addiction themselves, or have people in their lives that struggle with addiction. And I think it's so important for us to talk about these things publicly. And like when you talk about forgiveness, to me, it goes hand in hand with love. Like it's one of those things that as human beings, we have to be able to do.
Yeah, it was not easy. It was a very long road, I will say, for me. But I'm so grateful that we are in the place that we are in now, where she is healthy. She has a little child, Nora, and she's thriving. So
I mean, it's a miracle in a good way. And
is.
I think being a family member who can find that forgiveness and come back, I mean, that's what life is all about. And, you know, no matter the road that you go on to get there, like, major flowers to you for being there for her. I really appreciate you sharing that story with everyone, because so many people struggle with addiction.
yeah.
And I imagine those years where she was using heroin, like, I mean, I actually can't imagine how hard that is. I've never actually had a family member who was using drugs. You know, I've had family members who have struggled with addiction and have spent pretty much my entire life not going back, not reverting. Like my dad has been in AA for 42 years.
Yeah.
And alcoholism almost took his life. So I've been around people in my immediate life that have suffered, you know, and had a lot of addiction problems.
Yeah.
And you made a reference to like your family and like it being, you know, so many different people in your family that have struggled with addiction. Same with mine.
Yeah.
So like red flags everywhere.
Yep.
And I think my parents have like instilled so much in my sister and I's brain of like, you know, you probably have an addictive personality, so
100%.
don't even fucking start doing shit.
Exactly.
You know?
That is myself as well. And I mean, even running can be addictive. It is indeed addictive. Athletics, fitness can be addictive. So
that is definitely a topic that we want to talk about too. Is the addiction of your sport. And and I definitely feel like my addiction is working out right now at this point in my life. But my addiction was playing basketball and trying, you know, to be the absolute best that I could possibly be day in and day out. And it was low key an addiction. Like, you know, I had bad knees. Like I probably shouldn't have like been so addicted to working out the ways that I was, but I was obsessed, you know?
100%. It is very, very hard. And I feel like that played out in my running in multiple ways. I mean, you talked about body image and everything like that. Like, there were multiple ways that I had to be very, very cognizant of what I was doing and my mindset towards it. And it evolved a lot through trial and error. But I will say, like, at the very beginning, that progress was very addictive. And, like, I'm making progress. I'm meeting all these milestones. I'm getting better. I'm getting faster, all this stuff. And eventually I started having some Achilles pain. And I'm like, it's probably nothing. We'll just keep running. And I kept running, kept getting worse. It got to the point where, like I said, I was a preschool teacher. I couldn't walk around the classroom.
Oh my God.
And I finally went to the doctor and he's like, girl, you have so many micro tears in your Achilles. If you keep going, you are going to fully rupture it. So
Did you have to do PRP?
I didn't have to do anything at that point. But I had to like be completely off of it for like 6 to 8 weeks. And the way that impacted me mentally was such a like reality check of like, okay, this is probably a problem. And that really was a red flag for me, that if I didn't take rest, my body was going to take it from me. And I kept telling myself that, like, as I improved. But at that same time, like with the body image stuff, I was losing weight. I was getting more fit. And I became very addicted to that as well, into that like idea of being smaller and being more of a runner. And if I keep running, I'll look more like a runner. I'm looking more like a runner. And that became addictive to the point where I even found myself not fueling after runs, or like not drinking water before I weighed myself, or like there were things that were popping up that I was like, why am I doing this? Oh, I'll only do this for a few weeks longer and then I'll probably stop doing this.
Right.
And it became so problematic, and I really, really had to like full 180 be like, no,
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, this is not the way.
I mean, that's in high school when I had an eating disorder, I manifested it through running. So I have like a very interesting relationship with running because that was my space of control, but it's also where I could control my weight.
Exactly.
I wouldn't eat very much either. And like my friends had to have an intervention with my parents because they just like weren't doing anything about it. But it was the same thing. It was like I wanted to look a certain way, and running was that way to help me get there. And so I committed to myself later in my life, especially after having kids, because let's not even get into all of the stereotypes around motherhood and body image and everything. And I ran my first marathon after having my children, and it wasn't for body. It was for me to achieve something really hard.
Yeah.
And so even to this day now, my relationship with running is not about body. It's about confidence. It's about a space I can control. And if I ever feel myself spiraling into that space where I'm like, well, I want to look a certain way, so I'm going to run, like I have to do something else because I just don't want to go back there where it was something to control the way I look.
Yeah.
Not for me.
I had to really like accept my body for what it was, and like it's okay to have like the body that I have, and you can't change it by starving yourself or by running it out. Like it's just that is who you are, and that's okay.
I think you struck a chord here with all of us because I felt you so hard on everything you were saying. Just like every little thing was like about body image for me.
Yeah.
And after I stopped playing basketball, I saw significant changes in my body that I was not happy with. And when I started running, things changed and it started to go back to the ways that I liked it. But then I was like, oh, I'm not muscular anymore. So then I started becoming a fanatic in the weight room. So now it's just like every single thing that I do, like my wife literally just told me, she was like, I think you have an addiction working out. And I was like, you might be right. Like I have OCD tendencies around my house, like being so clean and like particular about everything. But I think I'm at a place in my life, and I feel you on this, where I'm like, yeah, I'm addicted to working out. I can't take a day off. I won't sleep well, you know, and I'll still force myself to work out, or I'll be on vacation and I have to work out every single day.
Yeah, I have been trying very hard to take active steps towards things like it's okay to take a rest day, even though it's not like for a specific reason. Like it's okay to just take a rest day.
Right.
Like,
I know.
You don't have to
we
have
ambitious women don't do that well. Let me tell you, I have not stopped for a month.
Yeah.
Like, I need a rest day. So
Girl, high five. You're
I
great.
think a lot of it comes back to like things that were said in childhood, or like things that like
1,000%.
like those little nuggets that just get in your head. And when I was in high school, the boys would actually make thunder noises as I walked down the halls, because like I was a bit bigger than I am now, but like my legs have always been the most muscular, and like
Soccer legs.
Same girl.
soccer legs.
Same girl. These
Soccer
calves.
legs.
I got
And,
the calves.
Like I think those little things just like get in your head so much that like you get this idea of, in order to be this, I must look like this. And in order to look like this, I personally have to do this, because that's just not how I naturally am.
Right. Totally.
Well, we all know that society has 100% fucked us all up as far as body image
100%,
goes. Like,
right.
excuse my language, but it's the truth. And I think women generally, and boys for sure, but like we fight so hard every day to wake up and look at ourselves in the mirror and say, I'm enough. I am beautiful. I am all these things, because society for so long has told us that we're not.
Yep.
And I think for me, that's why this venture, being able to talk to amazing athletes like you and Jacki, and it's so inspiring for me to see women like you, and how sport can be such a positive place for you to find that confidence, for you to achieve things. Because if girls aren't living active lifestyles, like inherently we are going to fall into some negative spaces because of how society is designed.
Yep.
And so I think that's, that's the higher calling. And I think what you've done with Race Across the States is inspire so many other young girls coming up in sports and in running that like, you can do this forever.
Yeah, you can do this forever, and there can be multiple purposes for it. It can be, to have fun, to explore, to do all these things. It doesn't have to be just to be fit or just to, be a certain way.
Well, and what I love too about running is it's an individual sport and a team sport. And people don't really talk about that enough, but the community, I mean, that's a big part of why I still run. And, now that my kids are getting a little older and I can get back into it, I'm really excited to find that community again.
Yeah.
Because it is just, it's
It is
so
the
supportive.
best.
It's
It
the
really
best.
is. It really is.
I mean, your Instagram is like just one example of like a digital community, right? And so you've obviously built this incredible community of runners. Can you talk a little bit about that and how did you do that?
Yeah, so I first decided to start the social media more as like a personal scrapbook. Like I was going to each of these states. I didn't really want to start a blog. I didn't really want to like handwrite all of this information. So I was like, okay, well, social media was kind of picking up, and I'm like, I'll just start a social media account, post like each of the states on there, some of the pictures, my time, and it became just like a little bookmark of each of the places. And as I started posting, people kind of started following along, and they're like, oh, this is interesting. And people were like asking me some questions about the states, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. So I started posting more in between some of my training. I didn't really know what I was posting because at that point I was still a teacher. I was just running in my free time. Like running was like there, but it wasn't like my whole life yet. So I was posting, and my community kind of started rapidly growing. Like I was being really authentic, I think, and just like sharing the ups and downs as I learned them instead of like preaching, I guess.
Yeah.
And so people were really curious, and especially women started following me. And so I started thinking like, I can't answer all of these questions anymore. Like I have so many questions in my inbox, so many things going on. And so I decided to start a community called Run with Aim, which was a group of women where they could ask each other questions, and we had coaches. And I decided actually at that point to get my coaching like certification and hired some other coaches and kind of created this more inner community of people if they wanted more support. But my Instagram community just kept like kind of growing as I continued to share these states, and it really became a place for me to share as I learned and to share the stories. There were so many funny stories along the way I did these states, and as my mom and I traveled, people
The last thing you
loved my
posted
mom.
was hella funny, let me just say.
Jacki and I were literally crying, laughing. We were like, this is the best content
We'll
we've
put
seen
that
all-
up like right now. Such a good one.
So yeah, it really just became like this space for me to share the entire thing, like all the ups and downs, all the funny moments, all the hard moments, like some of the things about my personal journey. And I think people can really relate when you're really authentically yourself and you're not afraid to like be unfiltered with some of the crappy things that are happening, or some like even the things like the addiction stuff. Like it's like you have to include that. And it's exactly what helps people feel seen and heard in your own content, because it's not just about yourself. It's about these things that other people are struggling with too.
It's safe and it's relatable, and I think those are the things that people look for when they want to like really be inspired by someone. And I think like your authenticity really has shined bright like through your social media, and I think like people are just sucked into your story because you're so real, and like people feel like they can get a little like piece of your life like when they follow you on social media, like admittedly I just started following you, and which is like super whack of me, but like I was like auditing your social media, and I was like, holy shit, like this girl's fucking dope as hell.
It's been a lot of fun. I mean, it's so cool to also meet other people. Like as my account has grown, like I've gone to races and people like know who I am. I'm like,
That's so cool.
I'm like not inherently like a spotlight person.
No,
so it's
you don't
always
even
been like
give
a
that
little
energy
like
at all.
Yeah, it's always been a little nerve wracking to me. Like I was washing my hands before a race, like went to the bathroom, was washing my hands. Some girl came up and is like, can I get a picture with you? And I'm like, I am just in the bathroom. Like,
oh, in the bathroom? You're like, girl, can we like go out of the bathroom maybe?
Yeah, but that's cool.
That is really cool.
Yeah, it's been really fun to create that space and to really foster that space as a place that lots of people can come.
You created like a very unique lane in your own lane, and I think your brand is cool as fuck. Seriously.
Thanks.
Well, and just like in the world of social media where there's just a lot of snake oil being sold, it's very cool to be in a page where you're like, this is like, I want to spend time here. That's what people really want.
100%. And I think there have been times that like people are like, oh, you're really like, how are you comfortable sharing that on social media? And like for me, I would be uncomfortable not sharing it because like I can't be myself if I'm not telling my full story. How can I act like myself if people don't know what's going on in my life? Like even if those things aren't pretty or aren't perfect, it's important to share them because there needs to be context behind the things that I'm doing or why I'm doing them. Like, it's just important to share both sides, I feel like.
Absolutely. You recently shared something very tragic that happened to you on your social media very publicly with people. And I'd love for you, if you're willing to share, tell that story a little bit more here on the podcast, because it's something that, whether it's happened to us personally or people in our lives, again, it's one of those topics that is very, very difficult. So I was hoping you'd be willing to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I want to say I have the most amazing husband who has been like just the best supporter through all of this. We met a few years ago and we decided that we wanted to have kids like right away. Both of us love kids. I used to be a teacher, so it's always been something that like has been really important to me. And I will say we wanted to start having kids like I wanted to start like a year and a half ago, and he actually told me like, you need to finish the States first. You need to have your moment. And like,
what a dude.
I know,
so
right?
supportive.
Like
What
that
a
is
dude.
like, I was like, oh, I really want to start trying. And he's like, no, you be you and you finish this thing as you and like by yourself. Like let yourself have this moment. And so we decided right after that that we would start trying to have kids. Got very lucky, and like on one of the first months, ended up getting pregnant, and I found out that I was pregnant on Valentine's Day, which was just, I was so excited. I was like elated, and I told him that same day because I just could not wait, and I also didn't have a gift for him yet, so I was like, oh yes.
You're like, the best
perfect.
gift.
Yeah.
Perfect. Cannot
Set
top
that
this.
up really well. Good job.
So I told him, we were both very, very excited. We had already had a trip planned for an ultra that we were supposed to do in early March. So I communicated with my doctor and I'm like, hey, is this okay? She said yes. Got the clear. Everything was good. She just said, keep your heart rate low. So we go to the ultra and we complete it and everything goes well. But I will say, like, leading up to the ultra, like, we were at elevation and stuff, and I'm like, I just don't feel great. Like, I feel really, like, not myself. And, of course, I was pregnant, so, like, I expected to feel that way. And even going into pregnancy, like, we talked about the body dysmorphia stuff and, like, the running addiction stuff. And it was very, very hard for me to even accept getting pregnant, like at first.
Can't imagine.
It was physically something that I had to like really grapple with and be like, okay, I am pregnant. Like I have to like adjust a little bit and like my body is going to change a little bit. And like all of these things were things that like mentally and emotionally I was like really, really trying to cope with. Yeah. But I felt like I had gotten to an okay space and was on the right track with that. But the day after the ultra, I experienced some bleeding. I told my husband, and we both, were very panicked about it. And we went to the doctor, and we found out that the baby had actually stopped growing like 2 weeks before we had left for the ultra. And I had what's called a missed miscarriage, which is where your body thinks it's still pregnant and has not physically terminated the pregnancy yet, but the pregnancy has ended, the baby has stopped growing. So we found that out, kind of went through that whole process, and now we are continuing to try, but it was a very long few months.
I just feel like women, we have to be there for each other in these moments. And I am sure I saw you posted some pretty nasty comments that people have made to you about running and being pregnant. And, people are so quick to judge about that stuff. And I think most of us, like, having a baby is a blessing. It is. It's a huge blessing. But the process, too, after it is wild. Yeah. And, like, we women have to be there to support each other. Yeah. In such an ugly world around it. And so I just thought what you did, I know I sent it to some of my friends. It meant so much to so many women. I can tell you that.
I really went through some turmoil in deciding whether to share at first, because, first it was very, very raw. Like everything was just, I just felt like so closed off. And I even told my husband, like, I have a full-time job actually outside of all of this. And I remember after it happened being like, should I just tell them like I'm sick? And he was like, why would you do that? Like, why do you feel the need to lie about like what has happened? Like, it's okay to tell them, like, that is how you will get the support that you need. And so I did, and the amount of support that I got was just like overwhelming, and it like really, really opened my eyes to why being authentic and being open is so important, because hard things are going to be hard, but they are a hell of a lot harder if you're by yourself and you can't, like, don't have that support around you. So
Yeah, that's so deep. I mean, your bravery is just like wow for me. I know a lot of people in my life that are experiencing similar situations, but like it's going to be really moving for them to be able to hear and see a story like you, someone who shared it. It just hits different, but like I really appreciate your bravery and your willingness to speak on it here and then to the world too, because there's so many women that suffer from that experience but don't talk about it.
Yeah, I think that was one of the hardest things, was just like I felt so alone because nobody talks about it and nobody shares about it. And like I totally understand why somebody wouldn't want to, but at the same time it makes it so hard when you're sitting there and you're like, is it just me? Like, what's wrong with me? Like, what did I do that has put me in this position? And I don't know anybody else who has been here or who to talk to. So when I did share, and, my comments and DMs were just flooded with women who, one, could understand some people who were even going through a miscarriage at the exact same time as me. And those messages just were like eye-opening of like, this was so important to share.
Absolutely. And women's health generally, like having conversations about the hard stuff, the stuff that feels unreal is incredibly important. And so like, again, like Jackie said, like major flowers to you for sharing and being so brave. And I hope, your story here on your social and coming on here and revisiting that story, because I'm sure it's still painful for you to revisit it. I hope it helps a lot of women.
Yeah, it was very hard, I will say, to like get back to myself afterwards. There was a period of time where I was just so frustrated that, like, as an athlete, you put so much time and energy and like work into taking care of your body, and like for my body to just not be able to do something that I like so badly wanted it to do just felt like I couldn't, like, it wasn't like computing for me. I'm like, how could this happen when I do all of the things? I took care of everything I could, but there's just a part of it that you can't control. And I think that was really hard for me to accept at first, of just like that lack of control, that lack of like just power over what was going to happen was hard.
I obviously have never been pregnant. I've never had a miscarriage. I've never experienced anything like that. But I think for me, when I was dealing with my injury in sport and my body continually failing me, and just like, why do I keep having this injury over and over and over again? And I think I was so upset with myself, because I'm like, it's because I was just born with these knees. Like,
there's an inherent frustration and just like,
and
this feeling of out of control of why.
And it's like you can't do anything, and you just like beat yourself up, but it's like you can't, like, why are we doing that?
One of the hardest things was like right after it happened, and I didn't know why it had happened yet. It, like, we didn't have any information, and I was super lucky that we did find like one potential cause, which is I have a thyroid condition, and my thyroid levels were off, and like my general doctor was basically like, that is 100% what caused it. And so like once I had that knowledge of like kind of a why, or like a controllable factor, it was a lot, not easier, but like it was easier to process and to like take steps forward, because I was like, okay, there's something I can take action on here. There's something I can do. But without that, it was just like, I was just spinning in my head, I feel like.
Wow. Let's see. So, Amy, you were so incredibly brave to share this story of what you've been through. How have you used that experience to move on? And what advice would you give to listeners out there going through the same thing to help deal with this feeling and like what's next?
Yeah. So I would say first and foremost, the most important thing for me was giving myself time to grieve. It was, it's an ongoing process, right? So like I have days where I feel great, and then there'll be a moment where something happens, or I see something that's unexpected, like a baby, a newborn or something, and it all comes flooding back. And like accepting that that's okay was really, really important for me, and that I could be both things at once. I could be joyful and happy and positive about the future, and I could be frustrated and sad and grieving at the same time. Both of those things could be true. And that was really important for me because there were days that I had both. And I wanted to be hopeful, and I wanted to move forward, and I wanted my husband and I to try again, and all of these things to be still joyful and not tied to sadness or fear or anything. And so I really had to be okay with both of those emotions existing. And the other thing was just like using it as motivation to continue to show up for myself so that my kids in the future, you know, I am the best I can be for whenever that does happen. And like we talked about, like the motivation, I've always been like future oriented. And so like keeping my mindset on that possibility and that hope and that future, and that like whatever I do today will incrementally add up, even if it's just a small thing that I do today, or a small run that I go on, or however I need to adjust to make it the smallest steps that I can take to get back to feeling like myself and to get back to doing the things that I love, and you know, all of that. Like today I had a killer speed workout, and I was just like,
Let's go.
yes. Like,
Little wins.
and
That's
yeah,
what's up.
it just like those things add up, and you have to like really grasp onto them when they happen.
Totally.
So
The little wins. That's really beautiful advice.
Yeah.
And being able to, for me, holding space for both of those emotions, that's extremely hard to do. And I think it's so
extremely
powerful
hard.
to say there's room for both.
Yeah, because I mean, even on social media, I had people literally trying to call me out of like, how are you so happy after this? And it's like, how dare you, for one? Like, I am allowed to feel joy. Like, I am allowed to feel joy even in my hardest days. Like, that actually, we had a lot of that when my husband's mom passed, where he was racing in a race like 2 weeks later in Yellowstone, and everybody was like, how are you guys moving on so fast? And it's like, we're not moving on, we're finding joys in a tragedy, and you can still be both things at once. You can, you know, it's okay to be all things.
Yeah, everyone's process is so different, and I think like finding the silver lining and finding that positive thing to hold on to is what makes it okay.
Yeah, and like that quote about like it can either make you better or bitter is something that is very important in my life in all aspects.
Yeah.
Like everything I've been through, I've always returned to kind of like that idea of like, okay, I have a choice to make right now. Like this can either make me really bitter towards pregnancy, towards having a baby, towards all of this, or it can make me better, and I can learn and I can grow and I can, you know, keep going in a positive direction. So,
Well, thank you so much for sharing that story. I
Yeah.
think it cuts super deep, you know, whether you've experienced or you haven't. Like, women talking about these things is so important.
yeah.
Especially for this next generation of women. You know, like, we're in a crazy time right now as a society. And I think the more women can stand up and own their power and talk about hard things, like, that's leadership in my mind. So you're
Yeah.
just like,
Honestly, like your
amazing.
story has genuinely inspired me too, because
Thanks.
like just like all the things that you've been through, and you've been able to use your social media platform to talk about those things. I'm just inside this conversation with you, and like, I don't know, you've really inspired me to like open up a little bit more. So thank you. Yeah.
that's like, to me, the quality of our relationships and how we interact with each other, I mean, is why we're doing what we're doing. Because we want to hear these stories. We want to create a platform where women can be inspired and feel like, oh my God, yes, I can, or I see myself in her. And
I think women go through so many challenges that are just like unrecognized and just unparalleled. Like it is like women have to go through so much in order to be able to do the things that they do and to do the things that they love. And it's like so many obstacles, so many challenges, and like there's such an inherent competition that is like ingrained in us. And I feel like if that was instead more supportive and more like inclusive and more empowering each other, that would just be so much better, because we're all going through these challenges. And none of us want to talk about it because we don't want to be seen as weak, or we don't want to be seen as less than or anything. But like there is power in all of us being like, yeah, we go through some hard shit. And like, what's good for us. Because like, how are we still standing?
It's like all these like topics that are like, if you talk about them, you're seen as weak.
Exactly.
Like, and it just, that makes you want to just go into a shell and just keep it to yourself, when it's like, no, like use your community, use your voice, talk to your people, you know. Exactly. So there's so much power in that.
I totally +1 everything you were saying about if we could just band together as women versus try and suppress each other or try and get ahead. Like, I think competition makes us great and keeps us on our toes, but I still, like Jackie and I talk about this all the time as it pertains to team sports. And even for me, like in industry and business, it was like, we can still be competitive and also support each other. And also cheer each other on. Those two things can be true.
Your story was just like so real, and just like you have a lot of shit that has happened to you.
I think your character is defined by how you handle those hard things.
100%.
And I think like your commitment to joy and commitment to grieving and like being able to balance that and show up every day and still be inspired is... Thanks. That's what life's about.
Yeah, well said. And like to shout out to your husband. That's like so supportive along the way, because that's a huge piece to it. When you have that supportive piece that's right next to you.
I could not have gone through everything without somebody who is so amazing by my side.
Yeah, I feel like I'm even more obsessed with him now.
Yeah.
Like
really
you too, like on your socials, I'm like, they're so cute. I love it. But now I'm like, now that I know him through your voice, I'm like, I love him even more. Like fangirl of you two. Big fangirl. But Amy, it was such like, it's an understatement to say what an honor it was to have you on our show. You flew out to us. Like
that was an honor for me.
Oh,
I'm very excited.
I mean, I'm like super sad you're flying out because I'm like, God, I want to take a run with her. But I feel like this is just the beginning of our friendship. So thank you for
guys
everything.
For having me. I'm hyped to be here.
I don't really know what to say, Jack, after that interview.
You don't know what to say?
I'm at a loss for words, and that's hard for me to say.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. That was such a powerful episode, powerful story. I am so inspired. I mean, when she was talking about the addiction that her sister had, like I said, my dad really struggled with alcoholism. He was a great basketball player, and that, you know, pretty much ended his career. When my mom was pregnant with my sister, that's when he decided to stop drinking and to turn his life around. And I think that he has been sober for 42 years because of me and my sister. And he is just someone that I look at that has just been such a positive role model in my life, of someone that could have taken a very different path, you know, but chose not to for something greater. So yeah, I mean, the addiction piece really struck a chord for me, and definitely something that like I really, you know, could relate to. And then the last time I tore my ACL, which was the 5th time, which is insane when I look back on it, I think I was at a place in my career where I wanted to give up. I was ready to be done with it, and I didn't feel like I had any more gas left in the tank. But there was something that I held on to, and we talked about that in our episode with Amy, of just like looking forward and holding on to something. And for me, when I tore my ACL, I got drafted. And I think that's all I needed, was that moment for me to be able to hold on to that and just say, okay, I'm working towards something. So for me, it was like the dream was still there, and it was like just dangling right in front of me. I could either take it or not. And I chose to put myself through that again, and really just go for it. So I think like there's so many things that Amy said in her interview that I could relate to with her, and just in with a completely different story.
And it's so, for me, you know, when we're prospecting guests and we're trying to find like stories or great connections or things we want to bring to the platform of Clack that really help empower women and show people that women are their sports, but they're so much more than their sports. Amy is like the definition of that to me.
You can't find anyone better.
I know. It's just like she's so, you know, and especially again, like I love running so deeply, and it's been part of my life for so many years. And I just love talking about it, especially with someone who has done it and had so many incredible achievements around it. And I think, you know, as human beings, it is so powerful to see the example of doing hard things, getting through that, you know, like that's one of the reasons I ran. It was a lifelong dream of mine to run a marathon. And I could have done it before I had kids, but, you know, having kids really threw me all over the place. Like it was a blessing, but also being a mother is very difficult. I've talked about that very publicly. Like you go through all the emotions of becoming a mother. And I knew after I had 2 babies that I was like, I want to do another hard effing thing. And it was run my marathon. And it was so hard. You know, I was working full time. I had 2 little kids. My husband's a trauma surgeon. I was like, I could have named off a million things of why I couldn't do it. But after hearing Amy's story, I'm like, I want to go do more hard things. You know, I want to just keep trying. And I think at this phase of my life, and I think for a lot of young people, like, it's time to just fess up and do the hard thing. Just get up and go.
Say less. Like, mic drop.
I mean, it's just like such a core part of being human beings is like, if we don't do hard shit, like what are we here for? You know? And so I just think her story is going to inspire so many people.
Same.
Whether you're a runner or you're not a runner. And we hope that if you're not a runner, like put on a pair of shoes and go outside and try it out. Like it's such an amazing feeling to run.
Just hearing, you know, different things that have happened to her and how she's been able to see the silver lining and the positivity. That's how I tried to live through my adversity as well. So I was so in awe of her.
Well, you both are incredible women, what you've been through in your sports. And I just, I feel honored that I get to sit in this seat next to you and with our guests.
Thanks,
But anyways, it is the weekend, so let's go
Cheers
get some dinner.
to the freaking weekend. Let's drink to that. Yeah.
Oh God, I fucking love that song.
Let's go cheers.